Hey everyone, welcome to the Philbrook Football Podcast. My name is Cameron. I'm back with actually good quality audio, not coming out of my Xbox One microphone. So that's good stuff. I'm joined by Isaiah, as always, the producer of the show.
Yeah, no, I'm joined by you. I was already here.
Well, I'm doing the intro, so I'm joined by you.
No, I was already here.
Oh, okay. I'm joining Isaiah in his podcast. Yes. So obviously it's the end of the season. It was a crazy season of football, as usual. I mean, we say that every year. Wow, this year was insane. But
what a crazy year. Boy, howdy.
But it actually was pretty cool, at least with how the playoff scenarios are all shaken out. There's a lot of teams that weren't in the playoffs last year that are in the playoffs now. And
8 teams specifically.
Yeah, that's right. I knew there was a lot of them. So, I mean, it's good. It's good to have some mixing up. I mean, obviously the AFC always stays the same with like the top 2 seeds, but
yeah,
I mean, the NFC picture was insane. I don't think anybody expected it to be like this. And the AFC, after the first 2 seeds, of course, was actually also really cool. So we'll get into that later. For now, let me go over the final regular season games from Week 17. The Cardinals versus the Seattle Seahawks won 26-24. This eliminated the Seahawks from postseason festivities. They're at 9-7, and the Cardinals finished with 8-8. Bruce Arians has decided he is retiring, though, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Carson Palmer. So
I'm assuming Larry Fitz follows suit.
Well, he can get to second all time on receiving yards if he stays next year. So I think that's kind of what he's going to go for. Plus, they'll have like a shiny new quarterback. Well, if they draft one.
See. They kind of shot themselves in the foot by finishing 8-8.
Yeah, that's kind of like Bruce Arians' thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I'm 8-8. I think I'm so awesome. I own Seattle's house. Anyways, whatever. So both of those teams are done with their playoff hopes. Their season is over. Can start looking for replacements on the coaching staff and all the teams, that kind of good stuff. Next game up was Green Bay against the Lions. The Lions won 35-11. Green Bay finished their season 7-9. Lions finished 9-7. Also fell short of playoff expectations. This was kind of a good season for Green Bay because it exposed a lot of their weaknesses they've had for so long, but haven't taken advantage of because Aaron Rodgers drags that team to 11 and 12 wins every year. Fired Dom Capers, or he retired, whatever.
They fired him.
So there's hopefully some hope for Green Bay fans in their defense. Next game was the Texans and the Colts. Colts won 22-13. Both teams finished 4-12 and have a good draft pick coming up in the draft. The Bears versus the Vikings. The Vikings finished their season with a 23-10 win. Pushes them to 13-3, and the Bears finish at 5-11. And I believe John Fox is also getting
fired. I believe, was already fired. Yes, he was already fired.
Yes. Okay, and then the Jets versus the Patriots. Oh, I didn't write down what the Jets scored. It doesn't matter. The Patriots won 26 to whatever they scored. The Jets are 5-11.
Did they score?
I don't know.
Did they score in that game?
Maybe that's why I didn't write it down. Patriots finished 13-3 on the season, per usual. Jets at 5-11. The next game up was the Redskins versus the Giants. The Giants win this one 18-10. They finished their season 3-13, and the Redskins finished 7-9.
Can you say that was maybe the weirdest game of the week?
I didn't watch it.
It was just like, I didn't watch it either, but I followed it, and I was like, what is happening in this game?
The Redskins are just so insanely injured that they had nothing
so
left.
Weird. I was like, how is this happening? How is Kirk Cousins flopping against the Giants who also are terrible. And like Eli Manning he threw to like 2 players in the first half, just exclusively. And like, it was just a weird game.
Yeah. Kirk was probably just done. He's probably just like, wow, man.
Get me out of here.
Get me out of here. The next game up was the Cowboys against the Eagles, staying in the NFC East. Cowboys win 6-0. Eagles failed to score, and they go 13-3. And the Cowboys finish 9-7, and they lost their playoff hopes. So
last year,
so sad. It feels so bad for the Cowboys. Anyways, so then the Steelers won against the Browns 28-24. The Browns finish off a perfect losing season, going 0-16. Steelers finish 13-3, winning more games in one season than the Browns have won in like the last 4 or whatever.
But they were right there in the thick of it at the end of the game against Pittsburgh's backup.
The thick of it.
I mean, Pittsburgh literally didn't play like half of its starters, and
yeah,
Browns almost won against the preseason squad of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They almost won, and everybody's going to blame Corey Coleman for dropping the pass in the end zone, which is, I mean, unexcusable, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't put yourself in those kind of situations.
Maybe you shouldn't give up 28 points to Landry Jones.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my God, the Browns are terrible, and they will continue to be terrible. They have verified that Hugh Jackson will be back next year, so we'll get another 1, maybe 0 win team next year. It's gonna be great as Brown fans. I mean, if anything, your guys' tickets are only like $5 a piece, so that's something. That's kind of nice. Next game up, we have the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons win 22-10. Carolina goes 11-5 this year, and the Falcons finish at 10-6. Cam Newton finished with like less than 50% of his passes completed, and just looked like utter trash.
He played exactly as I portray him to play. So it was, as much as I wanted them to lose, or excuse me, not lose, win, so that way Seattle could get in. Seattle couldn't even finish it against the Cardinals. So
yeah,
I was like, you know what, Falcons. As I've stated before, the Falcons are like my other team that I root for. So it's like, if there's another team that's going to take the spot from Seattle, I'm okay with it being Atlanta. And I am rooting for them wholeheartedly in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll look at their matchups in a little bit here and see what all that kind of stuff is and go over it. But yeah, I hope the Falcons can put something together. So then we had the Bills and Dolphins game. The Bills win 22-16. They've held up their end of the deal, won that game, finished 9-7. Dolphins finished 6-10. All they needed was a victory by the Bengals to win against the Ravens in order to get into the playoffs. And the Bengals upheld their end, finishing 31-24 on a last-second touchdown to Tyler Boyd, 49-yard touchdown, giving the Bills their first playoff appearance in 19 years, since 99.
Yep, since 99.
Bills fans responded really awesome. They've been donating to Andy Dalton's charity like crazy.
Yeah, the last I saw it was over $170,000 to his charity, and they're sending him a ton of wings. So
yeah, man, cool. I think it's great. It's kind of funny thinking like, okay, so the Bills might want to move on from Tyrod Taylor here. What are the chances that, like, if Andy Dalton was a free agent, man, they'd want to bring that guy in, right? He's like
They might.
I was listening to some other radio station that does sports stuff, and there's like a caller that called in and said, like, no offense, Tyrod, like, I love you, man, but Andy Dalton is my favorite quarterback. Oh wait, no, wait, that was a player who said that.
Was it?
Yeah, there was a player. I think he was just saying it to be funny. He was a Bills player, but he was like, yeah, no offense, Tyrod, but Andy Dalton's my favorite quarterback right now. And I'm like, God damn, man, even letting them win, Tyrod like drags his team to a victory every week, and they're still finding a way to bash on him. Oh my God, it's just funny to me. Anyways, so the Bills are headed to their postseason. Next up was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New Orleans Saints. Tampa Bay won 31-24, finishing 5-11. And the Saints, with the opposite, finished 11-5. I don't really know what to say about that game, except I'm assuming the Saints, did they rest their guys or something? I didn't watch the game, but I mean,
No, they were playing.
Jameis Winston threw 3 picks and only 1 touchdown. They still somehow won. So I don't know how that happened.
They were definitely playing. I forgot that the Saints even lost that game.
Yeah,
because I just like assumed that they were going to be fine. But yeah, they played. Everyone played.
I know Ingram didn't do a whole lot this game. That's all I know about it.
Cameron, the Mark Ingram owner.
So then we had the AFC matchup between the Jaguars and Titans. The Titans win 15-10, sealing their playoff spot. So they're 9-7, and the Jags are at 10-6. The Chiefs versus the Broncos. Chiefs win 27-24. The Broncos, even facing a team with basically all of their good players out, still finds a way to lose to the Chiefs because the Broncos are just that bad.
That was maybe the funniest game of the week. The fact that the Chiefs starting their rookie quarterback, his first action of the regular season, and they throw him into the fire against the Broncos without Tyreek Hill, without Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt for pretty much 2 snaps. Like, that was hilarious.
Yeah, like they take away all his best best weapons, and they're like, okay, let's see what you can do. And it's like he brought that team to a win. I mean, that's
power of Demetrius Harris, Albert Wilson, and Demarcus Robinson or something like that. I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Some dude. Yeah, Albert Wilson's like the GOAT number 4 receiver, though.
Dude, he's not even the number 4. He's the number 2. But he's Albert Wilson is underrated.
Dude, what happened to freaking Chris Conley? That guy had like
IR.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because that guy has like all the measurables you'd ever want in a receiver. He has like 4.3 speed, and he's like 6'4".
Chris Conley's great. He just got hurt, so he's been on IR pretty much the entire year.
Great's kind of giving him a little too much credit. I wouldn't say he's great.
I'd say he's pretty good.
He's all right. He hasn't proved anything,
when you literally pass it to only 2 guys on every freaking passing play, you're not going to get a lot of targets.
True. Okay, so let's see. Where was I? Oh, Raiders versus the Chargers. The Chargers did what they needed to. They won this game 30-10, but they needed some help getting into the postseason and were unfortunately unable to. They finished their season 9-7, and the Raiders are at 6-10. And then in the final game, the Rams versus the 49ers. The 49ers win 34-13, finishing their season at 6-10, and the Rams finish 11-5, which locked everybody into their playoff spots, and we're all good to go into the postseason. But let's kind of talk about a couple of different things real quick. We mentioned the 0-16 Browns. They're the first team since 2008 to go 0-16. Since the Detroit Lions, so
legendary Lions team.
Now there's a legendary Browns team.
Yep.
Led by the legendary Deshaun Kaiser and
Deshaun.
Cousin of Michonne. I mean, if you watch Walking Dead, that's like a thing.
Keystone tires.
And beer.
And beer.
Keystone. Hi, my name is Deshaun Kaiser, and I like to drink Keystone rotten banana peeling tasting beer. It tastes so terrible. I hate Keystone Light. It's
sponsored by Keystone Beer.
Yeah. Keystone, hey man. Man, no, I just talked some smack.
You want to sponsor this 3 subscriber podcast?
And the guy who just bashed your beer because it tastes like crap. Okay, anyways. Yeah, so the Browns go 0-16 and retain their head coach, which is kind of insane to me. I don't really know what their thinking is. I maybe just like, okay, if we get him a quarterback, maybe he'll win 2 or 3 games.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm assuming is going to happen. It's just like they probably wanted to give him more than like a year, and they're like, okay, let's give the guy I'm going to say probably the full year next year as well. Because, I mean, the expectations cannot be big for the Browns at this point. I mean, you can't expect a team that bad to turn around in a year or two. You know, you just want to see improvement at this point. So I think they're going to look for, you know, obviously if he goes 0-16 again, he's not keeping his job. So they're going to want to see him. I'm going to say he's going to need at least 3 wins next year to keep his job.
He's going to have 3 wins before the bye week, I think, to keep his job.
Maybe.
And he'll have to play competitively. If the Browns aren't competitive in their games, at least, or show any sign of life with all these new draft guys, all these new draft picks, then he's definitely gone.
I think it just depends on who they get him in the draft. If they get him a quarterback first overall, you know, it doesn't really matter who. I don't personally think Darnold, from what I've seen from him, I don't think he's going to be that great, but
he's definitely not going number 1.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty consensus at this point that Rosen is going to go number 1. However, he's already said that he doesn't want to play for the Browns,
right.
And I can't really blame the guy.
I mean, I can't either, but like, you really shouldn't just like go out and say that I don't want to play for this team. You know, it's like,
well, I mean, it worked out for Eli Manning. He said, I don't want to play for the Chargers. Dean Spanos sucks. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll trade you to New York. And Philip Rivers, like, you know, had some good years with the Chargers, but how many rings does he have? And how many rings does Eli Manning have? I mean,
how many like Super Bowl defenses has, how many Michael Strahans has Philip Rivers had over there in San Diego?
Well, he's got one guy now. But anyways, I mean, well, I guess a couple guys. But anyways, I mean, either way, I mean, but look how, but that's kind of a testament to that organization. They put no defense around him.
Right.
And look, that's where it ended up. If I'm Rosen, I don't want to go to the Browns either. Screw it. I'll take a couple million less.
You don't want to go to the Browns.
I would, if I'm Rosen, and this guy's already said that, you know, his intention has always been to make money off of playing football, because that's what he's good enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Rosen, I'm thinking long term. I say, okay, every quarterback that's gone there since 1999, or since, you know, for the last 20 years or whatever, has been so bad and been just ruined by that organization. How about I just take a chance and say, maybe I'll sacrifice a couple million, go to a team a little further into the draft, and then bet that I'll get a second contract at some point. I mean, I can't blame him for that. I mean, if he goes to Cleveland and looks like garbage, then that ruins his future.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to a team that has a track record of trying to build success, you know, like the Giants, for example, that have, I think, the number 2 pick. And then, I mean, there's other teams, like even the Jets. I mean, they're not like as dumpster fire worthy as the Browns are, for sure. They went to the AFC Championship game a couple of times with Mark Sanchez. I mean, they're kind of like middle dumpster fire, you know, not full on like tire fire like the Browns are, but
right.
Definitely not anything good. But I mean, the Broncos are right there as well. They could trade up and try to take him. I mean, there's a lot of teams right now that need a quarterback that he could go to and have already much more support to succeed. I don't know. The Browns are the worst organization in the league, obviously, and yeah, I mean, I can't blame him.
Yeah, I could see them, you know, I mean, if they really wanted to, they could trade that number 1 pick, you know, and if they wanted to just say, hey, you know, we like all 3 of these top quarterbacks that are out there right now. Maybe they just like Josh Allen a lot, and they're just gonna like school everyone and trade down and get Josh Allen, and then he's gonna like bust, and
he only completed like 52% of his passes this year.
But maybe they're just
he's
like
a tall white guy.
Yeah, maybe they'll just like go for it and be like, let's get Josh Allen and screw everyone out of their draft picks and then draft nobody because they have no talent evaluation on that freaking staff.
Well, freaking Sashi was getting a process started, and then they like kicked him out. They have like, what is it, like 5 picks in the top 60 or something like that? Like, that's insane. That's so good. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't be opposed to them moving down to like number 2 or number 3 if one of those teams, if the Giants or even like the Broncos, if they have their guy figured out, like exactly who they want to take, as far as the quarterback goes, they'll trade whatever they need to get to the number 1 spot. Because if you believe a guy can be a franchise quarterback, you give up whatever you need to. It doesn't even matter. I mean, you sell the farm. That's what you're supposed to do. It doesn't matter. You take that risk, because look at Carson Wentz this year. The Eagles traded all this draft capital to move up and take Wentz at number 2, and it worked out for them really well. I think the draft capital is nothing compared to the prospect of getting a franchise quarterback. Right. So one of those teams is probably going to feel pretty confident about their guy. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see Josh Allen be one of the top 5 picks, because I mean, look at a guy like Blake Bortles. He went number 4 in a year where Johnny Manziel was there to be picked. So was Teddy Bridgewater. These guys who were considered safer picks. Mm-hmm. Bortles was kind of seen as a development project kind of guy, and the Jags took him at number 4. Josh Allen's kind of the same way. Wasn't definitely not as good in college, but the situation is the same. You know, they're both guys that are going to require some patience. So I don't know, man. I mean, they could also trade back into the 20s and take Lamar Jackson late, and
they could
get some excitement on the field, man.
I don't know if Lamar Jackson's the answer there.
No, but he's exciting to watch, and he makes a lot of plays, which could just help the Browns sell tickets. I mean, get people to watch their games, if anything. And I mean, he's taken great strides in college to become a better passer.
Right.
And because that was his biggest knock the year he won the Heisman, was like, well, he's just hitting wide open guys and running for thousands of yards, touchdowns. But like,
what a loser.
Yeah, but he's the best player on the field every time he takes the field in college. Yeah. I mean, that guy is ridiculous. I have faith for Lamar Jackson. I like that guy.
I do too.
I think he could be good, but he has to go to a place that he doesn't get forced right away. So yeah, I mean, like the Browns wouldn't be a good spot for him. I'm just saying, from like the franchise point of view, this guy makes a big plays, and he's considered kind of a wild card. You don't know if he's going to be good or not. You know, Josh Rosen's kind of a boring pick, because it's like, well, I mean, yeah, he's the most polished quarterback, but it's like, well, there's nothing like super flashy about his game, other than he's just accurate. You know, I mean, anyway, I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm just an armchair evaluator, but. Yeah. I mean, what are your kind of your expectations for next year for the Browns? You said like 3 wins.
Yeah, I'm saying that they have enough talent in their skill positions to get by. I mean, if they can, I don't know what's going to happen with Josh Gordon. I'm assuming, I don't know how much he has left on that contract there.
Isn't he still in his rookie contract?
Yes, I think he is. And that would, I think, give him, 1 more year with them.
Dude, he's only like 26 years old.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
He's only 26. So in the event that they still have Josh Gordon another year, they still have Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, and then they have Ricardo Luis or whatever, and Rashard Higgins. Like they've got enough skill at the wide receiver position to be okay.
Yeah.
The running backs are kind of Crowell's like okay, but he's kind of a one-trick pony. And Duke Johnson's a great playmaker, just not like an every down running back. So I think offensively, if they just get their quarterback, I really do think they can make a lot of strides offensively. They just need a guy that can accurately get the ball to their wideouts consistently, and they'll be okay. The defense I'm concerned about, simply because they need, we were talking about this earlier with Jabril Peppers, and they finally put him at like the kind of the strong safety linebacker kind of flexy position there, which is what he's really good at. So that's been working out for them pretty well. So now they really need, I think they need to go after like a free safety, so that they have a safety back there and a safety with speed, because they have that strong safety, kind of the Seahawk model, where they have Earl Thomas, who's super fast, great in coverage, and then Cam Chancellor, who's like a beast up front, up in the box. Like they need that kind of dynamic if they're going to keep Jabril Peppers in the mix of things.
Definitely.
So I think getting a free safety would be huge for them, because that's going to, help their corners and alleviate some of the pressure on them. They have a decent Joe Schobert is a decent linebacker for them. Jamie Collins should be back, I think, next year.
Brody Calhoun, their corner, he's been playing really well for them too, going kind of unnoticed, but they have good talent. They just need a coach that can maximize it. I just looked up. Josh Gordon is a ERFA this year. I don't know what that means. Free FA stands for free agent, but I don't know what the ER means. So,
I was hearing something about that. It's like super restricted free agent kind of thing. Like,
I'm gonna guess that the Browns sign him to a 1-year contract worth, somewhere in the ballpark of, 10 to 12 mil, somewhere in there, on kind of like a prove it deal. Like, all right, so you played for us some of this year and you did pretty well. Obviously he was their best talent on offense by far.
Yeah, he was.
But I think they want to see, consistency out of him, as far as like, all right, you've turned your life around now. Let's see you do it for consecutive years.
Here's an off season.
Yeah, here's an off season.
Good choices for an entire off season. Play a full season for us, and then we'll see what we're gonna do with you.
Because they have the cap space, they can afford to give him, a 10 million plus contract for 1 year, similar to what the Redskins did with Terrell Pryor.
Yeah,
make sure that he can keep his life together, and then if he produces next year, like, he'll make a bunch of money. He'll get a good contract from them, which I'm sure they're fine with. I mean, there's a reason they've kept him around for so long, because they know he's A, ultra talented, and B, it wasn't hurting them to keep him around.
Right.
But I'm sure they still want to see like continuous growth from him as a person. So we'll see how that all turns out for them. But the best thing for Gordon would be to stay in Cleveland, in my opinion. At least for next year.
Yeah.
This team has stayed by your side this whole time. I mean, the least you can do is reward them by sticking around,
Yeah.
But let's kind of switch topics here. We've been talking about the Browns a lot the last few weeks. The Bills with their first playoff appearance since 1999, since the 20th century.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised that they were able to make it in. As I said, I had predicted that they would beat the Dolphins. So I wasn't really like worried about that. It was more just the fact that I didn't think the Bengals were going to be able to beat the Ravens. Like, they're both not like great teams, but like the Ravens were like, yeah, we're gonna go to the playoffs. Like, there's almost no way we could not make the playoffs. But sure enough,
all they had to do was win.
Or have like the Titans lose, and instead, Titans won, Ravens lose, Bills win, and now the Ravens are out of the playoffs, and that really sucks for them, because they were
That's an understatement.
Yeah, like they. Of all the teams that, were in the hunt for the playoff spot, like they were doing all right. They really kind of started getting hot towards the end of this year, but they just couldn't put it together.
They could have had a 10-win season.
Yeah.
But yeah, they lose against the freaking Bengals. Yeah, it was terrible, because like every week we were, bashing on the Bills, saying that they're the worst. Oh, they're the worst 5-win team at this point in the season. They're the worst 6-win team at this point in the season. They're the worst 8 wins team in the season, and every time they might still be the worst team to be in the playoffs right now, but they're there, and they got there, man. I mean, the AFC is kind of weak this year, but I mean, they still did it. And
and their defense has been showing up more for them, and that's really been helping them. And since the benching that Tyrod Taylor had, he's been very efficient and. His typical Tyrod Taylor stuff. Like, Tyrod Taylor is not what they want him to be. They want him to be the superstar Russell Wilson guy, but that's not what he is. And they need to understand that. And I think this latter half of the season has been kind of this okay, this is what you're going to get from Tyrod Taylor. And if you develop a game plan that's going to work with him, you're going to be all right. Like, you just need to understand, LaShawn McCoy is your guy. Feed LaShawn McCoy while you have him and go from there. But don't do this, LaShawn McCoy had a couple carries, he got some yards. All right, now let's throw it 18 times in a row with Tyrod Taylor.
To Deontay Johnson.
To no one. I mean, they don't have wide receivers on that team. It's insane. The amount that is expected of him to throw to nobody is just, it's mind-boggling. You're throwing to sometimes Kelvin Benjamin. He sometimes is on the field.
When he's not
eating or hurt. Jordan Matthews has been on IR pretty much the entire season. And,
per usual.
Yeah, per usual. And, what do you have after that? Zay Jones? Oh. You got good old Zay Jones who did nothing all year.
But he was so good at East Carolina.
Charles Clay has been hurt half the year.
Yeah, they've been hurting on offense, man. And Tyrod Taylor has been dragging that team through his efficiency.
Yeah, so cut him some slack.
He's like a rich man's Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, dude.
I feel like Jacoby Brissett's ceiling is like Tyrod Taylor. Just limit your turnovers. You make plays with your legs and just play your game, but don't force it. Right now, he's playing with the Colts and. They've got nothing to play for, so he's just been going ham trying to, make plays when he can, and he can't right now. But either way, Tyrod Taylor is, I think the Bills and Bills fans that bash on Tyrod Taylor don't realize how hard it is to find a quarterback that plays that level. Mm-hmm. He's just playing above average. That's it. I mean, he's not playing godly or anything like that, but
look how long it's taken them to find a quarterback like that. That's what they really need to understand. There's a reason you haven't been to the playoffs since 99. Name the good Bills quarterbacks since 99. Name someone that's not Ryan Fitzpatrick. Do you even remember that Bills quarterback?
Trent Edwards. He was probably the last good quarterback they had.
The one I remember is Kyle Orton.
He was kind of journeyman, yeah.
Yeah.
Trent Edwards is the guy I remember. He was all right, and then I think he got injured and got noodle arm syndrome or whatever. But
you need a quarterback. You can't get by with crap. And Tyrod Taylor's the best quarterback they've had in a long time, and that's why they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, everybody just wants an Aaron Rodgers. Everyone wants a Russell Wilson, and it's sometimes you just got to settle for a guy who can play competently. I mean, the Bills wouldn't have been in this situation, or, who knows how everything would have turned out, but if they hadn't benched him for Nathan Peterman, they could have had 10 wins this year. If they had won against the Chargers were just starting to get hot then. They hadn't even really done anything. They had I think they had won against the Chiefs.
Yeah, they just started getting hot.
Or something.
No, they didn't beat the Chiefs. No, Chiefs beat them both times this year.
Okay. I don't remember exactly what happened, but they were starting to look good, and then they just got insane confidence boost by picking off Peterman 5 times.
Yeah.
And it's man, if they weren't if the Bills hadn't thrown that game, they could have had 10 wins this year. I mean, who knows how everything else would have played out, but still, this was basic. Bills fans deserve this, man.
Yeah.
They're seriously probably the best fans in the league. They're they were waiting for the team in single-digit degree temperatures at the airport just to cheer for them. They've been donating all this money. They've been, jumping through tables. It's good times up there in Buffalo. I'm surprised there's not like riots in the street, man. They've been thirsting for this for a while.
Just wait till they win the Super Bowl, then you'll have the riots in the street.
If the Bills win the Super Bowl, I will officially, for 1 year, change my fandom to the Bills, and I will stop rooting for the Seahawks for 1 year. If the Bills manage to win the Super Bowl, you can hold me accountable. All of you people,
all of you
people,
Cameron,
all of just Isaiah, because he won't forget.
Yeah.
So going back to the state of Ohio, Marvin Lewis is staying in Cincinnati. They announced this after the Browns announced that Hugh Jackson is going to stay with the Browns. So I'm assuming the Bengals were thinking that Hugh Jackson was going to get fired, and they'd be like, oh, okay, what's up, homie? I know you. Come on back. I'll give you a job. I'll hook you up. And then the Browns, being even more dysfunctional than the Bengals, were like, no, we're going to keep him around. And the Bengals were like, well, Marvin Lewis, I guess you get to keep being the second longest tenured head coach in the league.
Somehow. I mean, I just couldn't believe that he kept his job and like Jim Caldwell got fired. Jim Caldwell has had like winning season after winning season with the Lions, and they're like, yeah, we're just going to fire you. And it's like, dude.
I think coaches get fired based on season expectations. Okay, so look at I don't think the expectations are very high for Marvin Lewis.
But they need to be.
They should be, sure, but I don't think the expectations were very high for them. I mean, they lost their whole offensive line this year. Andy Dalton isn't a great quarterback. They didn't really have a lot of like offensive firepower outside of AJ Green. I mean, this team and their defense was struggling. I mean, I just don't think the expectations were very high this year. They should have been higher than, what did they go? 7-9. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, look at Jack Del Rio. He's getting fired. And
just nonsense.
Well, I mean, you go 12-4 last year and then regress immediately the next year. I mean, okay, they upgraded running back. They added more guys on defense, and they went from 12 wins to 6 wins. They won half as many games this year.
But their wide receivers led the league in drops.
Okay,
their wide receivers regressed horribly.
And that's really unfortunate, but you still only won 6 games after a 12-win season. That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, but like the amount that team just completely regressed from last year to this year. I mean, the corners just slowed down. The defense wasn't really great to begin with, and it got worse. Even though you have guys like Bruce Irvin, Khalil Mack, and Navarro Bowman, like that defense got worse. Mm-hmm. And then the offense, like Jack Del Rio doesn't call the plays. I blame so much of their offensive struggles on that coordinator and who's actually running that offense, because it was pitiful.
Well, yeah, but I mean, his coaching staff is going to go too. That's on Del Rio for putting that coaching staff together. I mean, it's not like the players that regress, like you're talking about the drops. Amari Cooper, sure, that might be on him, but the defense as a unit shouldn't be regressing when you're bringing back almost all the same guys and a defensive player of the year in Khalil Mack. Like that team on defense should have shown improvement, and it didn't, and that falls on coaching. And that's why Del Rio's getting fired. And Jim Caldwell, I think his expectations, they expected him to get into the playoffs. I think they said, okay, you've brought this team to be a good wild card contender year in and year out. This year you need to make the playoffs. That's the way you're keeping your job. And he didn't make the playoffs. 9-7 isn't going to cut it. And that's why I'm saying, teams they fire these guys based on their expectations for the year, not because of what they achieved, but because of what they didn't achieve. Marvin Lewis, I mean, he's obviously kind of an outlier case because he's like best friends with the owner of the franchise, and he brought that team out of being what was essentially the Browns, and brought them into winning seasons. I mean, I'm sure the owner's, ultra appreciative of that or whatever, but I mean, I think that's why these coaches get fired, is just because of what they're expected to do, and if they don't live up to that, then that's the way it goes. Same with a guy like John Fox. He's getting fired this year, and they expected them to have a better season. I thought the Bears had an okay season.
I don't think Fox should have been fired this year. I think people were calling for it to happen last year, but given what he had to work with this year, I think they overachieved. That roster was bad. Trubisky was not ready for the NFL, as pretty much everyone said, and those wide receivers were all third, fourth string guys on other teams. Their defense was okay most of the year. It's kind of middle of the ground. It wasn't great, but it certainly showed promise. That team wasn't a dumpster fire team. They have talent. It just it's a young team. It's super young. So
well, everybody sees the Kyle Shanahan's and the Sean McVay's. They see these new coaches coming in, and especially McVay coming around and turning that team from what was the lowest scoring offense in the NFL to the highest scoring offense in the NFL. And these teams are like, well, we want in on that then. Well, we're going to get whoever the next greatest coaching hire is. And for the Bears, it could be somebody like Josh McDaniels or Matt Patricia, something like that.
But Josh McDaniels, he's already shown what he was capable of as a head coach. Now, he's probably learned a lot since then, but when he was a head coach, he was pretty bad. So
he was also dealing with Kyle Orton and Tim Tebow when he was in Denver.
Yeah.
I don't think he really... I don't really remember. I don't know if he got a fair shot for a while or not, but I'm sure he's learned a lot since then. The game has changed, and he's still in the league. I don't know. Plus, it helps that he's worked for the best coach of all time.
He's expressed many times how much he just likes his position. Last year, they're talking about all these coaches going around, and he was just like, "I'm good."
I'm sure he's good until some team's like, we're going to throw piles of cash at you. And you go, oh man, I like my job, but I really like money. It's hard to give up. I think Matt Patricia is going to get out of New England, though. I think that a lot, from everything I've read, owners and such are pretty much telling him, when they do their interviews, that he's smart enough to be a general manager. This guy should be a GM for some team, or could be a GM for a team someday. And I think he's going to be the next guy to go.
It's possible.
Which is kind of surprising to me, considering the Patriots defense this year kind of underachieved. But then again, they didn't really have any... Their secondary did just fine. It was the defensive line that they...
Yeah, Matt Patricia doesn't control who gets traded away, Chandler Jones, and who doesn't. So
Jamie Collins.
Yeah,
it's all right, turn Kyle Van Noy into a Pro Bowl player somehow.
This, very average linebacker. You just can't do it that way. I don't think Matt Patricia is a crazy god coach or anything, but the way that the Patriots defense kind of finished the year, I think shows kind of what he's about.
Yeah.
And he had to really adjust because that team could not rush the passer at all. So we'll see what happens with him.
But yeah, there's a lot of coaching changes going on. Marvin Lewis not being one of them. And then another story real quick that you wanted to talk about. Sam Bradford is back at practice for the Vikings.
Big quarterback controversy sparked by probably ESPN. Sam Bradford returns to practice. Oh, what does that mean for Case Keenum? To be fair,
he had his best game of his career in week 1. He teased everyone with what could be.
Yeah, he was really, really good in week 1 and hasn't played since. Well, he did, but was not ready to come back and ended up getting benched again. So
benched because he was literally still injured.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we'll give you a cortisone shot and call it good.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So
no, my knee is literally made of glass.
So pretty much just to clear the air for anybody that's listening, Sam Bradford is not going to be the starting quarterback. Case Keenum is the guy. He has earned the right to be the guy through basically being in like the MVP conversation, whether people want to admit it or not. Like, the dude's up there.
Yeah, dude. Case Keenum.
Like, Case Keenum, obviously, he's not going to win it over guys like Brady and Gurley and Wilson, guys like that. But, like, Case Keenum, and he's playing lights out for the entire year. It wasn't just, like, 3 games and then they fell off. Like, Case Keenum has been good all year, really getting that team along. And without his starting running back, he
made Adam Thielen a 1,200-yard receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure part of that was also Thielen, but Diggs came on strong towards the end of the year, so that was nice.
Yeah, they really got Diggs after his injury towards the end of the year. Well, his injury was early in the year. I should phrase that better. After his injury earlier in the year, they worked him back in and then really got him going towards the end of the year to ramp him up kind of towards the playoff push. So that should go pretty well for them, having both their receivers kind of just like hot and ready to go.
Indeed.
For those like Little Caesar pizza. So that's my take on it, at least.
Yeah, dude. I still think that Diggs is the better receiver out of the two of
Agreed.
them. But yeah, it's like the last few weeks, Zimmer goes, okay, Case, did you know that Diggs is back? Did you know that he's back from his injury and has been for a few weeks now? Because you never throw to him. And he responded by throwing it to him a lot, which is good because Diggs needs more opportunity, man.
He's really good.
He is really good. But yeah, Sam Bradford coming back isn't really going to change anything for the Vikings. But at least, if anything, they have probably the best quarterback room in the league right now. So
yeah, at least the most like the greatest insurance plan of all time for quarterback.
Yeah, seriously. So that's kind of all of the topics we have, just kind of off the topic of the playoffs, but we can kind of get into our matchup predictions and the for the first round of the playoffs, the wild card round. Let me pull it up really quick. So the playoff picture is as follows. For the AFC, New England has the number 1 seed, Pittsburgh at number 2. Number 3 is Jacksonville, Kansas City at number 4. Number 5 is Tennessee, and number 6 is Buffalo.
NFC is the Eagles at 1. I'm not even looking at this. Eagles at 1, Vikings at 2, Rams at 3, Saints at 4, Panthers at 5, Falcons at 6.
Yes, dude, the NFC South sending 3 teams to the playoffs this year. Craziness.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, I can't believe that. I don't know if that's when that's ever happened, but so the first matchup is going to be on January 6th, Saturday. The Titans against the Chiefs in the first AFC wildcard playoff spot. Kansas City is favored by 9 points. However, I think it might be a little closer than that.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
Well, here's what I see. I think that really this is going to be a pretty high-scoring game because both defenses aren't great. But the Titans, if anything, can defend the run all right. So they should be able to keep Kareem Hunt from going nuts, which is kind of the key to stopping the Chiefs, is to just control their running game so that way they can't control the tempo of the game. And then from there, it's just making sure that you cut down on turnovers. If the Titans can play a turnover-free game, I think they can win. It's just those turnovers that really kill them.
Yeah, Mariota definitely needs to be on point in this game. He'll be going against his former teammate, Terrence Mitchell.
Yeah.
So there's that, I guess. But yeah, I think if Mariota can play as efficient as he has in years past, I think that the Titans have a real shot at winning this game. DeMarco Murray is out, so they're going to be force-feeding Derrick Henry, which is fine in my opinion, I think.
It worked out fine for them. I mean, he really is. They've just kind of been waiting, getting what they can out of DeMarco Murray while he's there. But, I mean, Derrick Henry's kind of their guy.
Which has been ridiculous because Murray has been averaging like 3 yards a carry all year.
Yeah.
And he's not looked good running the football. And Derrick Henry has shown a lot of good flashes. He's
Dude had like a 70-something yard screen pass for a touchdown this last week. Like,
yeah, he does crap like that because he's just a ridiculous athlete. And he's only 24 years old, 23 years old or whatever. Yeah, I would expect them to run the ball a significant amount, work off the play action, and if the Titans can, like I said, if they can keep their turnovers down, they'll be okay because Kansas City isn't going to turn the ball over. Kareem Hunt fumbled once at the beginning of the year. I don't think he's fumbled since.
I don't think he has either.
Didn't fumble at all. Fumbled once in college and recovered it. And Alex Smith has only thrown 5 interceptions.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
To 26 touchdowns and led the league in passer rating. That team's not going to turn the ball over unless you force it. Kevin Byard has been great for the Titans. That rookie, he looks ridiculous. He's had a couple of multiple interception games.
He co-leads the league in interceptions. He has 8.
He's a playmaker, man.
Yeah.
He makes a lot of plays, and if they can create some turnovers, then they'll be all right. I think Kansas City is still going to win this game, realistically speaking. I just think that their offense is going to be too much for the Titans to handle. I'm sure Coach Reed has been, keeping some secret plays hidden for, playoffs and stuff like that. He always does. I would love to see the Titans win this game because I love Marcus Mariota. He's like my favorite NFL player just because he was a big fan of the Ducks and I watched him all his career and I think he's a great guy and everything. So I hope the Titans can win this game, but I don't think this is going to be their year. I don't think they have the power on defense to stop them.
I don't think it's going to be their year. Like, I don't think they're going to go to the Super Bowl by any means, but I think that they're on pretty equal playing field right now with the Chiefs, honestly. I mean, the Chiefs maybe have more explosiveness and, with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, but like, I really do think that both teams are kind of on an equal field right now, and really just having that home field advantage may push the Chiefs over, if anything. Because I think the
Arrowhead
Titans
is tough to play in.
Yeah, I think the Titans can keep up. I mean, it's ultimately like you just have to contain Kareem Hunt, and then from there, you just can't give up huge plays to Tyreek Hill. If you can avoid those two things, you're good. Because you can let Tyreek Hill have a game where it's like 5 receptions for like 90 yards and a touchdown. Like, you can allow that and still win. But when you're allowing Tyreek Hill to have the 3 receptions for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns kind of games, like, you can't let that happen and expect to win. Like, that's just too much scoring to keep up with. So I think that it's hard to make a prediction, but I trust the Chiefs more offensively than I do the Titans right now. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs as well, but I really do think it could go either way.
Okay, and then the next one, we have an NFC wildcard playoff spot also on Saturday. The Rams going up against the Falcons. Falcons are playing in the wildcard spot. The Rams are going to be at home. And what are you thinking, man? What's your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this game?
It's a tough one to pick because the Rams have so much talent. The issue for me with them is that they are not playoff tested at all. Nobody on that roster is playoff anything. Like, they don't have any experience. Whereas the Falcons just went to the Super Bowl last year. Like, they have playoff experience. They've been in the playoffs. They were in the playoffs 2012. I don't remember if they were in 2013. But like, they've been a consistent contender, and they've been getting hot towards the end of the year here, and showing what they just did to a quarterback, like what they did to Cam Newton this last week. Like, a quarterback that is not like a complete passer Jared Goff isn't a complete passer either yet. We talked about this last week, how, Sean McVay has done so much to make things easier for Jared Goff. I don't trust Jared Goff in the playoffs in these huge games yet.
Yeah.
So I think the real thing here is kind of similar to what we were just talking about with stopping Kareem Hunt. This game is all about containing Todd Gurley. If they can contain, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, especially hard.
Like, in that offense right now, it is really hard to do. But if the Falcons can keep Gurley to a just kind of like okay game, you might have like 100 yards rushing, but if they can keep him to like 100 yards rushing on like 25 carries, they might be all right. They just have to keep him from these monster plays like he had in the last game he played. That was just insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Rams definitely aren't battle tested, so they're going to have to... Really what it's going to come down to is they really need to just keep executing their plays like they've been doing all year. If they can just keep doing the things they've been doing to win games this year and score points, they're going to be fine. Atlanta, their defense is all right. It's not great. And their offense has been anemic at times. I mean, the Rams have a good shot at winning this game. There's a reason why the Falcons are a wild card spot this year. But, I mean, if Atlanta does have that experience, they've been through those trials to get to the Super Bowl. They've been in these positions before. So, I mean, who knows? They could stay calm and the Rams just get too jittery and start making mistakes. You never know, especially in the playoffs, man. Every team is on level playing ground, essentially. Yep. So I do think that in a perfect scenario, I think that the Rams are going to win this game, just because they've been unstoppable on offense like all year, and Atlanta has really had to struggle just to get 10 wins. However, I mean, they did play in obviously the most stacked division in football this year, which makes it a lot harder on them. So they could be a lot better than what we think. But I don't know, man. Their offense just is too suspect for me. And Rams D has been playing all right. So
yeah, I mean, the Rams defense has certainly been better with Wade Phillips there, but it's, when I look at the talent on each side, you're putting your faith with the Rams in a second-year guy in Jared Goff, a third-year guy in Todd Gurley, and then you have Cooper Kupp as maybe the best wide receiver, who's a rookie. Like, he's not a huge guy. Like, you have Cooper Kupp, and then Sammy Watkins, who's on and off the injuries. Robert Woods is back now, but like, he's not like a superstar wide receiver.
He was playing like one.
He was playing like one because that offensive scheme is insane.
Yeah.
But there's a reason he didn't do anything his first couple years in the league. Like, I'm putting my trust more in guys like freaking Julio Jones.
Even Mohamed Sanu.
And even Sanu, like, as much as he's not like an elite guy, like, that dude makes a lot of crucial catches for them. So having those two guys at wide receiver, you still have Matt Ryan there, and he does make mistakes, but he's playing in maybe the worst offensive scheme ever with Steve Sarkisian. Not ever, but like, Steve Sarkisian's terrible. And he's still got guys like Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman who can make a lot of plays just on their own. So I have a lot more faith in this offense that the Falcons have, even with Sarkisian there, than I do with this untested Rams team. That being said, if the Rams win this game against the Falcons, I think that makes things a lot more interesting for them, because that shows like, okay, we can do it in the playoffs too. So we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be a really good game. I think I might watch both those games.
I'll be able to watch the Falcons game for sure. Moving on to Sunday, the last two games of Wild Card Weekend. We have the Bills at Jacksonville. That's the early game on Sunday. Right now, Jacksonville is favored by 9 points. I mean, they have the best defense in the league. Pretty explosive offense at times. I mean, I've been down the Bills all year, of course, just because, this really wasn't a year that they were even supposed to contend for anything.
Right.
But man, I don't want to root against them, especially because I don't really want to root for the Jaguars.
Right.
But there's not really a scenario I see here where the Bills win this game unless Bortles just really just plays like, himself, I guess, and just...
I think that we have to give the Bills a little bit more of a chance if LaShawn McCoy is there. And even if he's not, when we really think about it, the receivers that Bortles is throwing to are not elite guys right now. D.D. Westbrook, Keelan Cole are certainly solid guys, but
Jadon Mickens.
Yeah, you really want guys like Marquise Lee and Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns in that starting lineup. So not having that, I don't know if Marquise Lee will be back for this game or not, but like not having your starter stud guys there, that really shows up in the playoffs. And so we want to say like, oh, the Bills are screwed because they have to go against this insane elite defense, but I mean, we just saw Jimmy Garoppolo put up 44 points on them. Like, it's not impossible to score on them. Like, Seattle put up 24 earlier, and like the Ravens beat them 40-0 in London or whatever. Like, the Jaguars are beatable. There's a reason they went 10-6. I
forgot they had that blowout game against the Ravens. I completely forgot about that.
It happened. So it is, again, they have 6 losses on the year. You can beat the Jaguars, but you just have to have a balanced offense. You can't just, you can't pass 4,000 times and beat them. So
Marquise Lee is out for this game.
Yeah, so that hurts them even more. I mean, now you're relying on 3 rookie receivers.
However, Buffalo has Deontay Thompson, Kelvin Benjamin, and Charles Clay all listed as questionable.
Okay.
Whereas for the Jaguars, Marquise Lee is out, Avery Jones, their defensive tackle, is out, and then Mercedes Lewis and Donald Payne are both questionable. So Bills are hurting on offense, especially if Kelvin Benjamin and Charles Clay can't play, and Deontay Thompson. I mean, those are pretty much their 3 top receiving threats.
Does it say anything about LaShawn McCoy on there?
No, he's not listed on the injury report.
So he must be okay to go then. In which case, they will have a better chance because you can beat the Jaguars by running the football. So I think that really the key to the game is once they start to key in on LaShawn McCoy, Tyrod Taylor just has to play mistake-free football. And we don't say incompletions are mistakes. Every quarterback's going to have incompletions.
Right.
Like, the mistakes are the interceptions, the fumbles, and the timing of those kind of things. Like, if you can just play the efficient Tyrod Taylor game, I really do think the Bills have a chance here.
Yeah, I believe you. I mean, Tre'Davious White won PFF's Rookie of the Year, and he's been playing lights out. I mean,
he is an awesome cornerback.
I think that he'll match up against... I don't think it's going to matter what receiver they put on him. I think he's going to be just fine. Really, if Bortles starts throwing interceptions, I mean, it's over for them.
Yeah.
Because once he starts, it doesn't really stop.
Nope.
He'll get his garbage time stats when everybody's playing off the line of scrimmage and everybody's, backing up. But if he's causing turnovers, then the Jags aren't going to be able to hang around in this one. And then the next one is the Saints against the Panthers.
Well, who do you have in that game? Jags or Bills?
At their best, I'll pick the Jaguars. Because I think both teams playing at their best, I think the Jags are a superior team. Really, the only position that the Bills are better than them is running back, kind of. But, I mean, you could make an argument that Leonard Fournette is better than LaShawn McCoy at this point.
You can make the argument.
You can make an argument. They're
I'll pick LaShawn McCoy 10 out of 10 times.
I mean, LaShawn McCoy only has 6 touchdowns this year, and Leonard Fournette has 9. And LaShawn McCoy only has about 100 more rushing yards on 19 more carries. So, I mean, take that as you will, but I just think that Jacksonville is a much more well-rounded team at this point than the Bills are. So At their best, I'm taking Jacksonville. But that being said, at their worst, I would rather take the Bills, because even at their worst, they're not making turnovers nonstop crazy. They're just not moving the ball very well. But Jacksonville at their worst has like 5-6 turnovers, bunch of penalties, a bunch of hotheads or whatever. I don't know.
If there was if either of these teams was like really playoff tested at all, I'd probably lean towards the one that was. But the only person with any playoff experience on, I think, either team is like LaShawn McCoy.
Calais Campbell and like Malik Jackson. I think he went with
Malik Jackson. Yeah, I mean, as far as like offense goes, I should have been more specific.
Sure, I see what you're saying.
Defensively, there's guys that,
or even as a team in general. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I mean, but that's why I would ultimately go towards the Jaguars, because they do have somebody on the team that has that experience. They have kind of that more veteran leadership on their team, and that defense is so good. So
yeah, I'm going to take the Jags on this one. So moving on to the last game, it's going to be the NFC wildcard playoff spot. The Panthers going against the Saints. Right now, New Orleans is favored by 7 points, and I'm inclined to believe them.
I'm inclined to believe that they're favored by even more than 7 points, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know what? After that performance I saw from the Panthers against the Falcons, there's one of two things that happen. Either A, they had no interest in seeing the Seahawks in the playoffs again. They wanted nothing to do with Seattle being in the playoffs. Or what most likely happened is they played like they do, which is like pretty much garbage. And when a team shuts down their passing attack, they can't do anything.
Yep.
So, like, I really wanted to have faith in them that they could beat Atlanta and help Seattle get in the playoffs. No, that was a garbage. I bash on Cam Newton. And I'm like, oh, dude, he had this like terrible performance, like I'll make up some he went like 10 for 28 and like 115 yards and a pick. He had a worse game than the bad games I make up for him in real life against a defense that isn't even that good. Like, there's no way I put my faith in him. And his Panthers team with their anemic wide receiver core, their overrated running backs, and then a defense that has really had to work hard to keep that team in the playoff race. Like, the Saints are maybe the most well-rounded team in the league right now. There's no way they lose this game. No way.
It kind of is a myth right now, like commonly accepted myth that it's hard to beat the same team 3 times in a season. That's there's kind of like, a lot of correlations that say like it's damn near impossible. But I mean, Cam Newton completed just over 50% of his passes this year. He only went 291 out of 291 out of 492. So he missed 201 passes. Had 22 touchdowns and 16 interceptions. And even with his rushing touchdowns, that only puts him at 28 total touchdowns and 16 interceptions. 4,000 yards of offense. Drew Brees, in what is considered a down year for him, had 4,334 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, while completing 386 out of 536 of his passes.
Setting the record for completion percentage in a season.
Really? Did he really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he reclaimed the title. He's like, Sam Bradford, no. This is my title.
Wonder.
You can check down to your whatever running backs all you want. I got really good running backs to check down to.
Yeah, I'll check down to my running backs. And Michael Thomas. Yeah, Michael Thomas, 1,200 yards, 104 receptions. He's questionable in this game, but even with Michael Thomas...
Does it matter? I mean, at this point, like... the amount of talent that the Saints have right now, they have Drew Brees, who is one of the more playoff tested quarterbacks in the league. Dude is like a straight monster. I mean, you just...
Well, he can carry your team if you need him to.
Right.
Even if their rushing attack starts to kind of slow down in this game, if they're not able to get it going, there is no quarterback maybe other than Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson that I want to carry my team to a victory just with their arm.
I mean, I'd probably put Tom Brady in there too. The dude has kind of proven he can do that.
Okay, but Drew Brees has had like, what is it, like 5 out of the 10 total 5,000-yard passing seasons ever. No other quarterback has done it more than once, and Drew Brees has done it 5 times. Okay, this dude is volume stats galore. There is probably nobody I'd want to carry my team with their arm more than Drew Brees, because he has shown time and time again that he is capable of doing that. So it doesn't even matter. Michael Thomas can sit out this game if he wants. I mean, it's not like the Panthers really have a corner that can cover him very well anyways. No. I mean, I have no faith in Carolina in this game. I don't think their offense is going to be capable. But then again, it's like, man, I know if I say that now, I'm going to eat my words later, because Cam Newton will find a way to have the best game of his freaking pro career for
every
all
now
I know.
And then he just decides to show up. But like, I mean, Cam Newton, even if they won this game, they'll lose the next one. He can't keep it going. He just can't.
Yeah.
And especially this year, it's like, I swear that MVP season for him 2 years ago was just this like fluke, you know, like, or I guess not fluke, but like his peak. And peaked.
Everything went the way it was supposed to. You know, all the 50-50 balls went well. All of the jukes that he had went well. It was like everything just happened to work out perfectly for all of that to happen. And he still only completed like, what, 64% of his passes or something like that? Like,
yeah, I mean, he had a really good year that year. Like, there's no question about it. But since then, what has he done?
What have you done for me lately?
Yeah, like you can only look on these past things for so long before it's like, okay, but what about now? Like, right now, Cam Newton's not good, and we can't just keep making these excuses for him. Like, well, he's this freak athlete, and he'll figure it out. Like, you can be a freak athlete and still not have the brains to do it. And your leader is a guy who whines and complains. If the Panthers are down 2 scores early in this game, who's to say that he doesn't just start throwing his little fit and gives up on his team? We've seen it many times with him.
Yep.
I just don't have faith in them. I'm sorry to their front seven. I love their front seven. It's so good. But like, their secondary's bad and their offense is terrible. So there's just no way.
Yeah, now that the Seahawks aren't in the playoffs, New Orleans is the team I really want to win the Super Bowl. I really want Drew Brees to get another Super Bowl under his legacy. Just quiet all the haters. Get, you know, I don't know. I'd love to see New Orleans win a Super Bowl, mostly for Drew Brees. That's really the only thing I care about. If the Chargers were in, I'd want Philip Rivers to get the Super Bowl. But I don't really have an allegiance to any of these other teams. I know you want to see the Falcons go to the Super Bowl and win. But me personally,
I want to see them go to the Super Bowl with the Patriots again and just destroy them.
I don't.
That would be awesome. Just like they go up like,
I don't want to see you go
28-3, and then they're like, no. Run the ball.
Yeah.
We're just going to run it.
Steve Sarkisian in his press conference is trying, see, at least I ran the ball, Shanahan. I ran the ball. Now I got a ring.
Take that, Shanahan. Still gets fired.
So we're both taking the Saints in this one for sure.
Yeah. If there was a team other than the Falcons that I wanted to win, like I really would be okay with pretty much any of the NFC teams besides the Rams or Panthers. Like, totally okay with the Saints. Would love to see the Vikings go there too. Like,
oh yeah, Vikings would be fun to watch.
To be the first team to go to a Super Bowl and like their home field, pretty much. Like,
not pretty much. Yeah, for real. Yeah, straight up.
To have home field advantage for the Super Bowl and have the Vikings be that team, that'd be super cool. With Case Keenum, without Dalvin Cook, like, that would be so cool to see. And the Eagles, like, I'd root for them more if they had Carson Wentz, because like Carson Wentz carried them, and I'm like, Nick Foles is 8.
Yeah, I don't want Nick Foles to be like known as Super Bowl champion or something. Like,
so I'm like, whatever with the Eagles. It's like, it'd be cool, like whatever, but I don't know. I don't think it happens with Nick Foles.
Vikings for sure would be another good team. They're probably the next team I'd really want to see win, other than the Saints. So that's kind of it for Wild Card Weekend. Some of the things to watch there, and then next week we'll talk about the divisional round, and we'll keep going through there, and we'll have our coverage through the Super Bowl, and we'll figure out where our podcast leads us from there. So
yeah, I mean, I can say right now, just kind of early kind of planning, there won't be a lot after the Super Bowl for as far as the month of February goes. You might see another one that month, but there really isn't anything going on after the Super Bowl until free agency starts. And then we might do a couple during free agency leading up to the draft, giving some kind of draft, speculation, if there's any kind of big trades that go on in the draft or before the draft to change draft positions and stuff, we'll go over stuff like that, but it probably won't be the weekly. There's just not enough to talk about for the weekly stuff.
Definitely won't be doing weekly stuff, but we'll do some stuff to cover the draft and make sure the teams address their needs and all that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that kind of stuff, but off season is going to be scarce for content from us. So, but anyways, thanks for watching all throughout the regular season, or at least since week 4 when we started.
Yeah,
just kind of on a whim there.
Sorry about week whatever it was that we didn't do one.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
I don't remember which one it was.
I think it was like 7. I don't remember.
Something like that.
But yeah, thanks for listening to all of our podcasts. I think next year we should start putting on like Spotify or something, like actual podcast sites or something. But
yeah,
we'll figure all that out. But anyways, thanks for watching the Philbrook Football Podcast. We'll see you next week after Wildcard Weekend
for more of the Philbrook Football Podcast.
Next week, tune in for ASMR version.
It won't be ASMR because it's the Philbrook Football Podcast.
Lit. Bam.